of course, we cannot disclose the detailed substance because we have confidentiality obligation, but the structure is the sort of joint venture type of disputes between the Japanese companies and Indian companies, which is really cross border, cross jurisdiction, and cross governing law, and cross culture. So it's a really nice online protocol and operation, which includes very efficient combination of the joint session and a private caucus session in which we could pick up the client's sort of common interest seeking, and also we could persuaded the clients, how to try to reach a win-win type of a resolution by the Greg-san's very strong and very respectful the initiative with my assistance, and that's a really good experience for me.
What was unique about this particular mediation, quite apart from the online modality and of course the cross-border nature and the different cultural nuances to navigate, is that we also needed to navigate different legal systems that the professionals before us hailed from, and we had very strong legal professionals. And the wonderful thing, even though they hailed from different traditions, is that I think there was a genuine commitment all round to finding a solution together, and that collaborative teamwork at an international level by client, by counsel, and of course ably co-facilitated by Yoshi-san and myself, I think made a big difference, because we may be separated geographically, yet we were united with a resolve to try and bring about an alternative resolution.
Maybe you can talk about how the pre-mediation, the mediation within that 3 days, what was the success factor, and more importantly, the turning point where you felt the parties were able to kind of turn it around to see how the matter can be resolved?
This pre-mediation functioned, worked very well to be prepared for how to start the actual mediation. One thing is the parties' mindset. Usually, including their counsels, they are in a sort of fighting mindset first, because the case was moved from the arbitration. But the Greg-san and myself had explained that the no, the mediation is not that. Mediation is to seek for common interest between the parties, not only the legal interest, but also for our commercial interests, as you mentioned, and also for how to proceed with the future business, even if they are, sort of finish the relationship, or they will continue their relationship, whatever. Such sort of amicable resolution would be helpful for the either way. So that's kind of mindset, the explanation, and understood by the both parties, quite good counsels. That was the sort of a first change and the turning point of this case. And then third, I'm calling it as the Greg and Yoshi's schedule, like in which we showed which portion the parties agreed or not yet agreed, and the parties can actually realize that they are progressing. They are on the way of the reaching the amicable point in which they can achieve their common interest. So such sort of a Greg and Yoshi's schedule showing, and then the parties were on the same page. That was the turning point at the actual mediation.
As Yoshi-san has also mentioned, we developed a schedule, and we were quite intentional in the way we developed the schedule to start off with where the parties were in convergence zones or, basically had agreed. And so by, basically showcasing the sort of quick fire wins or low hanging fruit where parties were already on the same page and agreed and dried and dusted. It's a question of how we move from there to the more contentious areas. And so by using that as an aid memoir, we were able to build from one peak to another agreement wise. I would say game changer or maybe turning point is the fact that all this was happening during the sort of heights of the COVID-19 transmission. And so in that sense, when parties begin to reflect on the impact of COVID-19 on all of us, including the economy, then it underscores the commerciality of trying to find another resolution that allows parties to get back to doing what they need to do in terms of the business aspects so that, they can sort of, keep the ships stable or try and, operate in a very, very difficult external environment economically and not waste too much time in court processes, which can be draining your energy or resources and diluting your focus. And that was one of the, I think, strong cards that we also tried to play in the course of this mediation.
Maybe so let me ask the question, how is two better than one, right? So we know that in mediation, often it's just one mediator. In this JIMC-SIMC Joint COVID Protocol, we came up with a slightly different approach. We said, hey, maybe we have two mediators would be more helpful, especially for cross-border case. How is two better than one?
In a sense, you had the best of both worlds here. Basically, you have Yoshi-san, who's highly respected in his legal system and, essentially drawing from civil law tradition. And then, I have the background in terms of the common law tradition. And then we also had, the advantage of, in a sense, language, because in the case of Yoshi-san, what was an added plus was his ability to speak in the language that, the Japanese party may be comfortable with, certainly some of the decision makers. And I think the willingness to offer that, to help bridge some of the linguistic differences, I think was excellent. And likewise, although I had an easier task because, the Indian party had, essentially ability to converse in English, but yet you can see that, there's a little bit of a cultural affinity both ways. I think one aspect that we were super intentional about was in all our communications to both parties and even jointly, we were united, we were collaborative. And I think that was critical because, we didn't have a situation where, for example, the Japanese party may view Yoshi-san as their advocate and then they go to him, or the Indian party would view me as the advocate and then they go to me. And we end up then divided, but we were completely united.
This might have been expecting the both the mediators should work as sort of a messenger or a translator. Then, as Greg-san mentioned, we did not choose such option. We chose, we have chosen the same page and the co-mediators for functioning as a one strong unit. And I think for this case, that worked. And also as Greg-san mentioned, we could utilize each legal background, the cultural background. We should not disclose the contents of this case, but such, sometimes the party's way or attitude and approach to negotiate could be different. And in such case, by utilizing such each mediators, each background and the legal background and skills, that's really helpful. So that's the one advantage for co-mediation, which I felt.
Let me end off with one last question for both of you, which is if you are able to communicate or express or convey your wish list to governments around the world, whether it's in Japan, in Singapore, in India, or other places, what would be some of the things that you would like to convey to governments in terms of promoting mediation, making it more accessible, access to justice, etc.? So maybe I'll start with Yoshi-san.
Japanese government and Japanese practitioners should learn a lot from the Singapore style. But on the other hand, the Japanese side can have further input, which could be helpful for the cross-border mediation from Japanese experience and Japanese initiative. So, for example, like based upon the Japanese civil law type of legal system, we have, for example, like a combination of expert and mediators mediation, which is, for example, taken lead by the court or judges, and that can function quite well, especially for like high-tech dispute resolution, something, including the high technology experience and the skills by the expert, but they need legal professions like judges, something. So such experience and good tool should be shown and should be imported into the cross-culture, cross-border mediation or a combination of the mediation and arbitration. Although I understand the between the civil law and the common law, we have a sort of a understanding gap. For example, like without prejudice type of confidentiality should apply to the mediation or not, or something. Just as we did for this mediation, we can utilize for good advantage points from a Japanese government and the Japanese judge court system and the Japanese civil law type of operation and Singapore type of very brushed up and sophisticated mediation and arbitration and the combination and the arbitration and mediation. So in that sense, I think the Japanese government should more contribute to the Singapore's sort of activation and promotion of the mediation and arbitration, and of course vice versa. And in that sense, in terms of the sort of amicable culture and attitude for a long history in Japan, Japan may have more input for that the mediation and arbitration field. And for example, currently the Austral and the Israel government is working with the Japanese government for the how to brush up the high technology dispute resolution or something. So for that purpose, I think those government initiative and the practitioners initiative should be very, very important.
I'll add three additional points to what Yoshi-san has touched on, which is definitely valuable from the point of view of the international cooperation aspects. I would say first, mediation is no longer alternative dispute resolution, but appropriate dispute resolution, and it's the first port of call that counsel and in-house counsel need to consider. If that means, for instance, appropriately tiered dispute resolution clauses, mediation clauses, and trying to examine at an escalated basis negotiation and mediation models as a first tier or first step, even before you take steps to more formal adjudication processes, that should be seriously considered. The second point I'd make is that I think the sky is the limit with online mediation modalities. And I'm truly excited about the possibilities, because if you think about it, this was a resolution that you can only dream about. 10 years ago, would this successful mediation outcome that we had under SIMC JIMC be possible, the technology may not have permitted it. Maybe the infrastructure wasn't there, but today it's there. And what we were able to do, if you think about it, was everyone zooming in from where they were, and some of the parties were in their homes, and any part of the globe.
Yes.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, and the comfort of your own home, and you can zoom in from any part of the globe, and that's the power and the potential pivot of online mediation modalities. So I'm truly excited about the potential, both not just in terms of what might be a submission to mediation pursuant to agreement, but also ad hoc agreements to submit disputes for mediation. The third and final point is, it is also the Asian way. And so in this case, when we had Indian parties, Japanese parties, and time will fail me to build on the brilliant and erudite wisdom shared by people like yourself and George and others about the history of mediation and how you can trace it back, from a civilization point of view. But it gives face to the parties, and face is critical. The reputational risk to the parties, if a matter is litigated, it's reported in the media, and the fact that it takes a long while to salvage some of the reputational issues, if things don't go well. And so it's a tool to manage reputational risk. It's a way to give face to the parties. And so to me, mediation is the way of the future.